Jason Wells with MLM Complete Package. I wanted to cover MLM prospecting this week because we have gotten a lot of questions on how to transition from the anti-suit entrepreneur lead generation marketing process, the concept created by anti-suit entrepreneur, and how you transition between that to your MLM company. And so basically, if you look at anti-suitentrepreneur.com, we've written a book that's not MLM focused, but it just discusses some of the things that we've learned over the years. It's a over 300-page book. So, I mean, it's a real solid book. It's got a really lot of good concepts. And it's something to get people thinking who are kind of at those develop stages, the develop steps, something we talk about in our communication course. It's people that are at those develop stage where they're, maybe they're tired of their commute, they hate their boss, they're tired of working for somebody, all those reasons that would be appropriate to introduce MLM, but it's just never quite a good transition, like between what they say and your company. Well, the anti-suit entrepreneur is like a bridge. It helps you bridge that gap where somebody can be exposed to these concepts, either reading the book or going through some of the processes we have. Now, first, let's recap real quick on how the anti-suit lead process would work and how they would progress. And there's what I would call a passive process and then an active process. Passively, a person could be reading the book, following the seminar series we've just gotten done with. We've been doing it over the last 6 months. They could be following our blog, YouTube, or podcast. And people that are passively learning about anti-suit entrepreneur and living life on your terms and that lifestyle are eventually put through the active process. So the point is, somebody could be, reading the book and just going through stuff, and they're not really in like a real marketing funnel or forcing through the process yet. They're just kind of being exposed to this. And we did this because there are some people that are just not ready to put into a marketing process, but you need to kind of warm them up. And the book's a good way to do that, as well as the other passive things that I just discussed. Now, actively, they could be going through our 3-step process, which you see here. And you can get to that by, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to anti-suitentrepreneur.com/3 steps. And that's actually 3 spelled out, not the number 3, 3 steps. And you can see the page I've got here. And so basically they go through that. And that is step 1 is our book trailer, which is really kind of an introduction to the concept. Step 2 is our snapshot video, which covers 3 very important steps, or I should say areas in the book. Things the whole book is important, but there are 3 main areas that we felt played a huge role in us getting to where we were at. And we discussed that, and basically what I tell people is, if I had to, somebody told me you have to pick 3 things from the book you had to keep, and you have to throw all of it out. You can't keep those other things. You got to pick 3. These would be those 3 things. But that's not to say the other chapters and concepts and things aren't important, because they are. Step 3 recommends they purchase the book, and somebody may have already purchased the book at this point, but we're just letting people know, hey, let's get involved here. You've seen these things. There's the book. And if you have somebody that purchases the book and they tell you that, that's a pretty good lead. I mean, that's showing some effort. Now, once we get them through the 3-step process, we sent them to a video called How We Started, and you can get to that at anti-suitentrepreneur.com/how we started. And this video ties the concepts in the snapshot video, those 3 things. Money-making skills is one of them. Having a vested mentor and a community, and it shows people how network marketing can provide those things. And then it draws a comparison between network marketing and franchises and puts network marketing in a perspective that even the most skeptical people can understand. Because the problem with MLM is it's been so bastardized over the years by people and companies. Let's face it, not every person in MLM is a good person, and not every company is a good company, that there are some people out there that have a bad opinion of it. Well, we bring MLM back to its roots and what was intended from the beginning. And, how, if you just look at what's intended in its purest form, it's a good business model. And so we show people that. And using the franchise model, we show them some of the similarities and then some of the differences. So it puts it and frames it and gets them in a state of mind where they can understand, oh, okay, well, this is just another way of doing business. So we do that, and that's where this question comes in. So how do I transition from that video to my company? And this is, as a leader, you try to systematize as much as you possibly can. You want things to be simple. And hey, if I could come up with a marketing funnel where my team never had to talk to anyone, I would do it. But if that existed, I don't think the MLM companies would need us. They would just make a funnel like that themselves if they could just grow without us. So this is still a people business. So at some point you got to step in and you got to have, a real intense conversation, and you got to have a real discussion with people. And so Chris and I bounce back and forth, do we make a video that transitions for people? Because we know what we do. Or do we just go to the old grassroots way of using communication? And we concluded that what we do, and this is the part that just has to be trained, and we draw off of our communication course. We talk about follow-up, we talk about close steps, and answering and asking questions. You have to know how to do that, and our course covers all that. And so I'm going to run you through a process that you need to do with people at this point, but you need to understand if you don't have the background on how to ask questions. And asking questions is really, it's one of those things you've got to do, because in objection handling, people view objection handling like, oh, well, they're going to say something and I need to have a cutesy answer for it. Well, no. Most of the time, and see, those are rookie MLMers or leaders that have gotten lucky. Like, those cutesy answers work sometimes. But the reality is, if you don't get good at knowing what the objection is without the prospect saying it, which that's what happens 90% of the time, is they don't tell you what they're thinking. They just seemed withdrawn. They don't seem real interested at this point, and that's because they've got some misconception in their head, and most of the time they're not going to tell you that. And so you have to figure out how to root that stuff out. And so asking questions and learning how to ask questions is critical, and that's a huge part of our communication course, and it's where most people fall apart, particularly when it comes to recruiting in MLM. Now, even with customers, if you don't know how to ask questions and your customer has a concern about a particular product, service, or regimen you're selling, and you know how to root those questions out, you're going to lose customer sales too. This is anytime you're selling something, if you can't figure out somebody's objections and you can't get them to tell you what's going on in their head, things are going to fall apart. And so this is why a big part of our communication course, we talk about how to ask questions and how to answer questions. We actually give real world examples. Chris and I actually demonstrate real questions that we've heard, things that people have actually asked us, and how we work through them. And so, if you have our course, you have access to our communication course, you probably want to go back and review that, because that's going to be very important to the subject matter in this video. And if you don't own our communication course, you need to find a way to get to it. You can find that on our website. And if you're listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube video, if you go to the respective blog post that relates to this, you can find some links there. It's also at MLM Complete Package /MLM Communication. So this brings me to the process. Now, the question, how do I transition? So the step one is you need to find out if they watched the video. And this may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised, like, people just skip over this. Did you get a chance to watch the How We Started video? That's what I ask people. If they have, go to step 2. If not, you need to reschedule an appointment and you need to have them go watch it again. Or if it's been a pattern, maybe you need to let this person go because they don't seem real serious. They're not going to do what they say they're going to do. So on to step 2. Determine if they paid attention during the video. Now I say paid attention because I think half the people that say they watched it really watched it, but they didn't pay attention. Like, you know how people are nowadays. They got 50 things going on at once. So if they didn't pay attention to the video, you really have nothing to talk about. And I think people are so desperate to have interested prospects that they just kind of push people through the process, hoping the process will work a miracle. I can have no process that will get people where you need to get them to sponsor them into your company if they don't look at the information, so they've got to do that. So I ask them this, and remember, all of the stuff I'm saying is in our blog. And so you're probably going to need to reference our blog because you're going to want to find these questions and write them down and have them as a resource. So what's your take on the video? What did you get from it? Their answers will be clear on whether or not they watched it. I mean, you will know. It'll be obvious. People ask me, well, how do I know? I mean, what if they say? I'm like, trust me, you'll know. Your gut will tell you based on their response to this whether they watched the video or not. And if they didn't, you just need to say, it doesn't sound like you really, got out of the video. Like, I'm not sure if you were distracted or you weren't paying attention. I tell people that, but it doesn't seem like to me, or you don't remember it. But like, if you and I are going to proceed in this process, like, you need to know what we're talking about here. So you need to go back and watch the video, and let's schedule a time to talk again. Again, did they watch the video? Yes. Did they pay attention to the video? These are some important things you need to get out. Now, if they have paid attention and they clearly got out of the video what's in it, then you move to step 3. And step 3 is figure out their experience with network marketing. So this is what I wrote here. And, you can do variations of this, but this is what I teach my own team in our company. Okay, in the video, Jason and Chris discuss how the network marketing business model assisted them in getting started on living life on their terms. Have you ever had any experience with network marketing, or do you know anyone that's built a network marketing business? So basically you relate them back to the video. You're saying, hey, did you see they talked about network marketing and how it helped them give a life on their terms? Then you're saying, basically trying to determine, do they even know what this is? If they do, have they had experience with it? Do they know somebody that's had experience with it? Because you want to know. Because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of problems. And this step is basically rooting out potential objections or concerns. And there's kind of a thinking out there in MLM. Like a lot of leaders teach their downline, just, oh, stay away from the objections, like avoid them, like, gloss over them. That never works. Like have to, you have to just get out there and dig in with people, and you have to figure out what they're thinking, and you got to ask them directly, because if you don't, you're going to lose them later. And even if they join your business, they're never going to build it, because they're always going to have a hang up on it. So it's better just to handle it now before you move on. So this question is designed to root out any potential objection surrounding people that have had some experience with network marketing or MLM. And I do this because I think people that have had a past experience, I'd say 99% of the time, it didn't go very well. I mean, not to say that they hate it. Not 99% of the people hate it after their experience, but they definitely, for some reason or another, don't plan on doing it in the future. So it's obvious that you need to deal with this. Again, if you don't know how to dig down and ask questions, you need that asking questions part of the course. Now, once I've done that, I ask a question to determine their level of interest at this point. So I say something like, can you see how a network marketing business can help you get the time and money you need to live life on your terms? Again, this question is asking them to kind of picture themselves doing it. Like, can they really picture themselves doing this business? Because if they can't, then there's more objections there, or something that's been left unsaid. And so you need to figure out what's going on. Because here's the thing, at least in our team, I know that the way we build a business, which is the whole business common sense style that we talk about in our Complete Networker book, which is an MLM Complete package book. I know the way people have done MLM in the past. Like, I know it's not what we do. And so if people are a no on MLM, on an MLM business, based on their past experience, that's not a no to me. They're just a no to the way it was done in the past. And so I know if I can get people to see that we do it this way and they were doing it that way, I know that they're going to be interested in what we're doing. So if I don't dig down and figure out, okay, have you done network marketing before? What's going on? Step 3, step 4. Can you see yourself doing this? If you don't, if they can't see how network marketing can help them get a life on their terms, then you're definitely dealing with somebody that's thinking something that's, it doesn't even have to be negative. It's kind of hard to articulate. Sometimes it's just they don't have a bad opinion of MLM. I think most people just think that, I think it's a great business, I just don't think it's for me, because they don't believe they can do it. So you got to figure out why that is. And again, a lot of times that relates to a past experience. And I know in our case, using a business common sense style of building, I know that our prospects, when they see what we do, they're going to be like, okay, I can do that. And so you got to figure out where people stand. And that's why you need to know what's going on in their head. So if somebody gives you, on this one, if somebody gives you like a lukewarm answer, or they say no, or they aren't sure, then I say something like this. Listen, I understand when we're venturing out on something new, there are concerns, fears, or just generally a thought, can I do this? So tell me what you're thinking right now. And don't hold anything back. I'm here to help. So let them off the hook. Tell them that you understand where they're at. You understand what they're feeling or maybe feeling. And so you're having a candid conversation. If you don't dig, if you don't figure out what they're thinking, you're not going to know why they're lukewarm or why they're a no, or no, I really can't see this helping me get a life on my terms. Like, then these are things you got to do, because if you don't figure out what's going on, it's going to be just this, you're always going to have people bring to this point, and you're always going to get stuck with people saying no to you, and then you're going to think that, well, this business doesn't work. It's not the case. You joined, so why did you join? And going to be other people just like you. So it's probably because the person that you joined with handled these things. So you have to figure out how to do that with your prospects. So the fifth thing is where, once you've figured this all out, it's time to transition to your company. And now this is the part where it's hard for me to help people that are out in the MLM community that aren't in our team. And it's because I don't know what company you're in. I don't know how or what you use to introduce your company. And so basically this part is left up to you or your upline or your company, whatever they do, on how you introduce. And the introduce step is a step in the communication process that's discussed in the communication course. Like, how do you introduce your company? Now, I can tell you what we do. We have a website that is access code driven. Now, an access code is, over 10 years ago, we pioneered that technology. It's an online technology that tracks what our contacts review. And so we know whether the people actually look at the information or not. And so it gives them access to the information in a secure environment. And then it lets us know, again, whether they're looking at it. And then we present the company in that fashion. So our web page has, addresses the most common questions people have about our company. We've picked 3 or 4 of our favorite videos that we think does the best job to the highest number of people explaining our company and our product and everything. So that's kind of up to you. I can only get you to this point, and then, I just transition by saying, my thing is, I'm going to show you my company so you can see how it can help you live life on your terms. And I send them to the information that we have. Now, you'll have to determine whatever that is for you. One thing I will say is a lot of people still do like hour-long presentations or webinars. I'm not a big fan of those. I think it's nowadays, especially with the new younger people, attention span isn't there. You want to send people to something, I know people like to have a controlled environment, but you got to have something that kind of throws everything out on the table and lets people look at it for themselves. People are going to research on Google anyways when you tell them your company. So you got to find a way to give them something. A lot of people like to do a controlled presentation. I just don't feel that works anymore. People want to look at what they want to look at. Now, there's one way to do things if you don't really have a defined process like we do. You can always ask people like, okay, if you're looking at a network marketing company to, get you a life on your terms, like what are the things you would want to know? And you want to narrow down what their concerns are or what they're interested in looking at when it comes to your company. Then you could send them specific links that address those individual questions. But, outside of that, that's about all you can do. And the only thing I'll say is this is your process. This is up to you. But I'm not a fan of big long webinars or presentations. I just think they're a dying breed. People's attention span nowadays is just less and less. Now, I know some people that have narrowed presentations like that down to 10 or 20 minutes. And then my thing is, well, why don't you just put it in a video form so you don't have to keep doing the work over and over again? So anyways, that's up to you. I'm just giving you my 2 cents of my experience and the trends I've seen. It's not like I'm against that. We used to do that, but as our testing shows, it's just not something that people really want to see anymore. So you will give them the information. You'll set up a follow-up time. And a lot of times, this is the follow-up step in the communication process that we discuss in the course. And on the follow-up step, you're going to get those general questions out of the way, and you're going to follow up, hey, how'd that information look? You're going to get more questions, more concerns, more specific things. You're going to address those. Again, you need to know how to ask and answer questions so you can root out objections and handle them. And then typically you're going to be moving to the close step. Now, sometimes in the same conversation, I can move to the close step. And the close step is addressing things like, well, how do I get started? What does it cost? All those, these are the nitty gritty closing questions. These are the things, people are asking you things that are letting you know that they're thinking of themselves as doing this business. So now they want to know, how do I do this? And so you have to move in that direction. Now, sometimes you can close them right there on that follow-up call, and sometimes you're going to need a second call. Most of the time you need a second call, and that all depends on the personality type. We talk about 4 different personality types at the beginning of our communication course. And so depending on the personality type you have will determine whether you're doing the follow-up and close step in the same phone call. But a lot of people, it takes 2 calls. So a lot of leaders do 3-way calls at the follow-up point and or the close point. So keep that in mind. Your organization may be different. I actually recommend that, especially if you haven't closed any people before, you need help in that area, like you need somebody to show you how it's done. And basically my concluding comments that, understand when you get to the follow-up and close steps, you'll be presented with a lot of questions, and there are going to be questions about network marketing. There are going to be questions about your company, and so you need to be prepared to answer them. And as I've said over and over again in this training, you need to know how to ask questions. It's a reoccurring theme, and I just feel that people don't get this far in the process if they're not interested. So if they're not interested or say, I'm going to pass or no, then they have some concern that they haven't expressed, that you haven't addressed. And so I think the most important thing outside of this process I just gave you, it's kind of a guide, is within this guide, you need to know certain skill sets. And those skill sets are asking questions and answering questions. And that's both on network marketing, the business model, as well as your company. So I hope this helps people. It should give you some real good direction on where to take people. Because if you've got somebody that's watched the How We Started video on the anti-suit entrepreneur process, you've got a pretty good prospect there. The only thing that's holding them back is you addressing their questions and dealing with them. And this should help you a lot on doing that.